America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker, the president of the Job Creators Network Foundation. Today, we're joined by Jeannette Mendez. Jeannette is an architectural designer with CAM Design Group in Arizona, and she joins us to talk about the Hispanic population and the current Republican Party. So Jeannette, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for coming all the way out from Arizona to Savannah, Georgia for our summit.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I was very honored to receive a call from Mary when she's like, would you like to be in the panel? I'm like, of course, let's do it.
Well, you were such a great partner with us during the election and really helping us talk about the message, the conservative message that we think is relatable to the Hispanic community and outreach to the Hispanic community. But before we get into all of that, I want you to tell me about yourself and your business. Give me a little background on you.
Thank you. I was born and raised in Mexico, born and raised by a parent who was very, very bohemian. And when I was like 17 years old, he's like, you're moving to Vancouver, Canada for school. I'm like, why? Why can't I just stay here in Mexico? I was in Guadalajara. That's where I'm originally from. So I was moved there for like about a year. And when I got back home, he's like, no, you're going to the United States. You're going to go for university in Scottsdale. And I'm like, what is that? Where is that? So he literally relocated me and my sister to Arizona back in then, like 2001. So I went to architectural school with a bachelor's in interior design. And that's been my entire life. I've been doing that for probably like 25 years old. Since I was like 20, 25. So it's been a while doing it. I'm very honored to do it. I got hired by a company back in the time who prepared me and put me in the hospitality industry. And around 2014, I decided to just, get out of my comfort zone and go in my own, open up a studio and pray and wish for the best. And it's been such a blessing. I'm in the industry of luxury design. All we do is mostly like the high-end residential luxury. We work for builders, investors, developers. Everything we do is like the high-end here in Scottsdale. Properties go from 10 million up to 30 million. That's the niche that we are. I have a studio of 4 girls. We do it all together, collaborating always on the job sites, on the field. More than being in the office designing my job, my amazing job, because my girls do all the pretty stuff on, behind the scenes. It's just to solve problems that you didn't even knew you had. That's literally my job description. So we get hired just to make sure these houses get all designed, put in the market and sell them. So it's a very specific niche here in Arizona. Been honored, been doing that for a while now. And aside from that, I'm also very involved with ministry. I have a ministry for women. I'm Christian. And my husband and I have a ministry for women. We don't own a church. We're not part of the church like that, but we have a ministry in us and we obviously congregate in a church. So I do travel the nations. I'm very honored to be a vessel for God and minister women.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So a day in the life in your job, are you working in new construction and doing the design elements of new homes? Are you working with the homeowners directly on custom homes then?
I don't have a lot of homeowner clients. It's mostly spec homes, which is very nice for me and for my team. So what we do is I will get investors that will bring in their investments. Some of them are a group of investors and they will say, we have put together this amount of money. We want to allocate it in a pipeline for say. So we will find them the properties, find them the land or houses that we tear down. Everything's a tear down for us. And from there, we start working in collaboration with architects. We put together a floor plan for them. I get involved from the beginning, from doing the architectural. I'm not an architect, but I have a background in architectural design. So everything is collaborated with the architect and myself. Once the floor plan is approved, we elevate the whole thing. Once approved, clients, homeowners, whoever is working, mostly the investors and spec home builders, they will say, okay, let's go. From there, we develop the whole interior of the house and then we execute. I have a lot of knowledge in construction, so you'll find me a lot on the field, running the jobs with, the supers and contractors and so forth.
I enjoy seeing how homes can change like that. So so that's why I ask a lot more questions on that side of things. I love the renovation of homes, and I've done a little bit of renovating in my home recently. So it's just been kind of fun to see the change. So I enjoy that. I'm not a very good designer though, but I know what I like when I see it when someone
Right?
else does it.
Well, our job is to make sure your vision, which is inside your head, can come out and then we can manifest it for you. And then on
Right.
the luxury market, we got to make sure that our houses tell the story because that's how we can sell luxury. We got to make sure that your property somehow it's different than every other house, especially for people buying a house. Think about yourself. You go with your husband, you're buying a house, how many houses a day you see for how many days until you find the one. So our job is to ensure that my house will tell a story. So when you go there, you find the wow factors to the house and you're like, oh my God, do you remember the house with the so and so and so?
Right.
Yes, that's the one.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so I want to talk to you about this panel that you're going to be on in Savannah at our Freedom Fighters Summit and Gala. And the reason why I think it's so important is when you think about what happened in this last election with the Hispanic vote, it was so fascinating. Donald Trump received 46% of the Hispanic vote, which is a new high water mark for the Republican Party. And I know that John McLaughlin, our pollster, who's going to be joining you on the panel, he constantly is saying to everybody, he's kind of waving a big flag like, hey guys, we rented this vote. Like if we don't change what we're doing and continue engaging and continue reaching out to the Hispanic community, we're going to be in trouble because this is borrowed. This is because the economy was so bad under the previous administration. This is because the values didn't match. This is because this was about values. This was about economy. This is about finances. This is about family. But we rented it. And if we don't change how we're engaging, we're going to be in trouble in the future. And we shouldn't have a problem with that because the conservative party, conservative voters really do align with Hispanic voters. I mean, they are conservative at heart. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about what we did right in November and what you think was the most effective piece of that.
I think what happened was I always tell people that people lack due to knowledge. When you don't have knowledge, you don't have power. Knowledge is power. And when you're not informed in an area, you're lacking that. You don't understand, so you don't really know what to do or how to proceed. I think in these elections, people were so desperate because they wanted a change in general. A lot of people had a misinterpretation of who Donald Trump was. They saw him from the past. They had banded him from different reasons, from things, the media will say things and they will ensure that that message gets very profound and they will just deliver that in media, social media, radio, TV, everything. And so they make you believe something based on what you hear. But not until you inform yourself and you're like, wait a minute, Jeannette, let me understand. Is this really what they're saying? Let me see who this person is. Let me understand who is he? What is he doing? What is he changing, right? I think that's exactly what happened this time. I think people were actually like, Donald Trump used to say that all Mexicans were so and so, and we were killers and rapists, and that big thing that happened back in the time. So I think this time, media who were trying to put President Donald Trump in a position where people were like, no, 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 forget about that. That was just the media telling you what to believe. Why don't you focus on the real person? Look what he's doing. And people were like following him so close and seeing changes. And you should have seen his rallies in here in Arizona. Arizona has a lot of Hispanics. We're in the border. I mean, hello, it's packed. The rallies were just packed of Hispanics and people shouting at him and just following him very closely for everything he was doing and saying. And then I think the most critical thing happened, Elaine, when he will speak on these rallies and his messages will just resonate with us. We're Hispanics in general, we're very family oriented, number one. Very family oriented. We work in community in like how would I say it? We always work in groups. We don't like to do things by ourselves. Even people live in their houses and it's not the husband and wife. It's the husband and wife and the children and the grandparents. It's a typical that this is how Hispanics get developed from when we're little. Like that's a must. You always have to be around community. So when we start hearing his messages and his speeches on all these things in the rallies, the things he was saying that were resonating to us. I think one of the things that really got us to change our mindset is when he introduced the gender situation to the reality of families. That was huge. I think for me, in general, that was huge. To be able to bring that completely out of the way to where we don't have to worry about what the children are learning in schools, what the children getting exposed in places. I think for families, that was massive. And then he, as a Christian, he starts then bringing somehow the word of God and God into politics. And for us, it's like, okay, hold on, then who is this person? What is he trying to do? And that's when things started changing in the community. That's when people were like, let me listen closely to what's happening. And then a lot of people start doing the informative to people. Like, let me inform you, let me teach you, let me give you wisdom about this. And that's when the communities and Hispanics and businesses and everybody start engaging more closely. I think that was how you were able to change the mindset of people.
So the sort of the, for lack of a better term, the cultural decay that we kind of saw happen, in the last 4 years, from crime to the transgender stuff, all of that. But when you think about how Hispanics did under the first Trump administration, do you feel like that was sort of the initial door open for them when they thought, okay, I've got 4 years under the Biden administration to look at how I've been doing my business, my family, my income, the cost of living versus the previous 4 years? I've got, my income was rising faster than inflation. My business was doing well. I could afford groceries, gas was more affordable, energy
The
was more.
border, just think about the border for us here in Arizona. I used to tell people a lot, before somebody in general can be admired, it needs to be criticized. And I think in the first administration of Trump, he was just so criticized until then Biden came in, and then Trump was so admired because everybody's like, wait a minute. During his administration, we were not lacking any of this. We were not exposed to any of this. What is going on? And then think about us in Arizona, talking about us here, the border. That was insane, Elaine. Out of the sudden, you start seeing all these crimes. So talking about my industry, the industry, like I mentioned before, it's in the luxury building. There's an area here, a community called Paradise Valley, which is the most high-end community in here in the valley. You go there in houses raised up to 50 million if you want, right? A lot of athletes and star figures live there. It's just a high-end community. A lot of vandalism started happening. And when they gathered these people and they brought him to the jails or whatever was happening, they interviewed and they asked him, they were illegal people. All illegal people that were coming in from different places. And then you start going deeper into it and you notice how they're opening the border just to anybody. Not to mention, they're also helping them. I mean, like, what? You're helping them when I have families in the Hispanic community that really need that help. They're paying taxes. They're working, they're legally here. But the fact that they have many children, for say, right? In the Hispanics, that's another factor. There's just so many children in the families. So you're saying, I'm working, my wife is working. As a family, we're putting together budgets to live. We are paying taxes. We're legally here. But yet you can't help me. You cannot give me an incentive. The government can help me raise my family, feed my family. But you're helping all these people come in illegally to the country, and then you're paying them. I think people got very upset about that. You couldn't get any more benefits anywhere. No benefits in hospitals, medical, nothing, because everything was just so overdue. So I was like, oh, so you gotta come in from a different country with no documents so that you can go get free medicine, free medical, free food stamps, free everything. But the people that actually work and have the rights to receive all that, they can't. This is twisted. And that's when people got awake and they're like, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Things have to change. That
Well,
was
I
a critical
know.
part.
I mean, and that, I think across the board, that was sort of insulting to everybody because people were really struggling, and some people still are. I mean, look, we're not out of this. I mean, inflation
Mm-hmm.
prices are still elevated. It's not going to turn around in, a few short months. It's 4 years of damage that things are very elevated. But I know, like in New York, I remember that you could. They were trying to get some of the illegal immigrants to go out of the city. They were kind of waiting to see if they could find jobs or get some sort of legalized status to work. But they were trying to get them to go northern New York for space because they couldn't house them anywhere, and they were willing to pay like their first year of rent.
Mm-hmm.
The state of New York, which was obviously getting federal funds from the government to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have homeless vets. We have, homeless people in general all over
And
the
you're willing
country.
to pay for others yeah, you know what happened here in Phoenix, and it was amazing. We did an event during these elections, and we gathered all the Hispanic pastors. I was called and I was asked, can you help us with this? And I said, yeah, 100%. Do you know pastors? I'm like, I know most of the pastors here in the Valley. It's a big thing for Hispanics. So yes, I do know them. I gathered them. It was like 150 of us in one place under the same roof. And we show a video. I cannot remember the name of the gentleman that conducted the video, but it was a video where they're showing how exactly what you're saying, how they were hosting these people, and police officers had them in like police departments in New York, and they were just holding them there, hosting them. And airports, inside the airports, they had all these videos and all these things. And that's where people start getting awakened. And they're like, what is going on? You're right. We got
Yeah.
vets, we got other people that actually deserve the right to have that, and they can't get it because we're feeding others.
Yeah. It wasn't a sustainable, I think strategy is a kind word to give the administration, but it wasn't it wasn't sustainable. I mean, there just wasn't enough space. There wasn't enough money to fund the millions of people that they were trying to bring through the border, for whatever their futuristic reasons were. Just, it's so the conservatives reached out to the community. The community was getting educated on crime, on the economy, on the family issues. And we did these things right. We obviously haven't done them in the past right. Conservatives haven't done it in the past right, but all of the stars align this time. What are your thoughts on how we can do better going forward? Because we can't just do it every 4 years. This is my big argument, and what I scream up and down, the hallway screaming is we can't just come out every 4 years and say, hey, vote for us because you like what we do, you like our policies, but vote for the Republicans, vote for the conservatives. We can't do that. We have to have a continuous conversation and continuously engage. What are your thoughts on how we keep that going?
I think if we just continue supporting the family, supporting the small businesses, because those are the ones that always struggle the most. Support the youth, some kind of like student help, or some kind of like programs that we can help, because remember, that's the next generation of voters. So focusing on that range of people, not just like the ones that we already vote and the ones that we already know we're going to do it. That's great. We're going to do it, and we're going to continue doing that. But it's now focusing on the ones coming. And by doing that, you got to think about the strategies we need, because if now you're speaking to the youth, that the 21s, the younger generations that are going to be the new voters, if you start educating them young, that's something that we notice it happen here. Once we start speaking to the youth and explain to them the difference, like, what are you? Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? And they're like, well, I don't know. So then we show them charts. Okay, is this aligned with your principles, or this aligns with your principles? And they're like, no, I don't believe in that. But do you believe in this? Yes. Okay. Do you believe in this? No, I don't believe. Do you believe in that? Yes. Okay, then you are the Republican. You're not this, you're that. And they're like, oh, so then they went home and educated their families. They educated everyone in that family saying, listen, this is who we are. This is what we do. So I think if we continue doing that, educating people, number one, to the principles, like, do you believe we should be doing this together as a community? Do you understand the difference between that and this? And once they get it, it's simple. We just have to continue pushing them, educating them, but obviously have strategies like helping the community, helping the families, helping the small business, helping some kind of student programs. There has to be something that think about the Hispanic community. I see it. I'm grateful and thankful for a family that both my parents have university degrees, right? But when you see immigrants that came here very young and they're legally here and everything, they just come from immigrant parents. Their parents didn't have the opportunity. They never had it. So it's a struggle for the next generation to be the first college, graduate or the first university graduate. It's not easy. So if we can find a way that we can help by programming something where you can have incentives, like we can give you this, we can give you that, and we work as a community. That's what we need to do, work as a community so everybody can be in the same line with the same thoughts, with the same focus and say, yeah, this is what we need to do. And obviously understand that when we do that, we stand stronger together.
The other thing that I've read a lot about, and our CEO Alfredo Ortiz, who I think you've
I
met
met him.
sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and he wrote a book about this, is how entrepreneurial the Hispanic community is. More entrepreneurial than their white counterparts, more entrepreneurial than their African American counterparts. They're one of the most entrepreneurial communities out there, and so when the economy was doing so poorly, they actually were more impacted than most because of how entrepreneurial they are. So many small businesses are created in the Hispanic community. Talk to us about the financial aspect, the economic aspect of it, when you were talking to others in the Hispanic community and what they were talking about from the financial part of it.
I was very honored during the pandemic to sit down in a round table with back in their formal Vice President Mike Pence. And it was so amazing when he talked about it was about Hispanic heritage, and I got invited to sit down in that table with him. And I can't remember the exact statistics he gave us, but he spoke about how many businesses a day. I'm going to find those statistics and bring them to Savannah, but he spoke about how many businesses on a daily basis are opened by Hispanics. And you're 100% correct. We are the number one community launching more business yearly.
Yes.
And I think the way I can explain this, and I'll give you the best example during the pandemic, when we were struggling, Hispanics have a way of building themselves to like, we're go-getters, we're overcomers. Right now I can be the architectural designer, Jeannette, but if I need to be something else tomorrow, I'm going to reinvent myself and become that. And if it needs to be something that it's in my lower grade, it's all right. I will figure it out until I can get back. It's just like that mentality that we have, that we can achieve it. How? We don't care. We just put our heads down and we work. We were raised like that. We come from a land that nothing comes easy. You got to get it. I mean, if you're blessed to be born in a community or a household that it was super wealthy, and that's great. But what are the odds? A lot of the people in the United States that come from immigrants don't have that blessing. They have to work hard. Their families came doing hard labor, intense work, and I see it every day in my business. I work, I don't know, maybe with hundreds of different labor guys, workmen guys, doing framing, electricity, plumbing, all those trades, right? And when I see them, it's just so amazing to see how they start something very small, and then you give them the opportunity, you give them the knowledge, and they start building it into a bigger thing. And the next thing you know is, if you educate them, that's what I'm saying. For me, it's just big. You gotta educate your people because knowledge is power. Once you start teaching these people how you can start something very small, a 2-man job can turn into a business, into a LLC, into something huge, because we're go-getters. You just have to show me the way. And the moment I understand how it needs to be done, then boom, we go. And then guess what we do? We bring our family with us. Now you see them working with their cousins, with their uncles. The children are part of the business now, and we keep growing and growing and growing. So they don't know it, but they're all entrepreneurs. They don't see it like that, but they are entrepreneurs. If you divide these families and you start seeing their households, you understand that everything is like, you're a business owner here, but you actually have another business here, and then you have another business here. It's just a matter of understanding how a business works so that you can make that into a very like a very fruitful business, for say. So I think in the Hispanic community, people are willing to do it. They want to work, they want to grow, they want to do better, and they want the opportunity. So if we give them opportunity where your voice can be heard in the community and you can become not just a labor guy, but if somebody can give you the opportunity where banks can be giving you loans to open a business or just benefits or some kind of something just to open up something, they'll do it. They're not afraid to work. They will do whatever it needs to do, whatever needs to happen just to grow and make more business and bring others. It's like a culture, community culture.
Yep. You talked a lot about educating within the community. You talked about, the older generations that have come here legally and they had to work very hard, but getting their kids here and getting a good education is so important to them. In the state of Arizona, your former governor, Governor Doug Ducey, passed universal education freedom, which allows the parents to be in control of where their kids where they go to school, whether they go to parochial school or private school or homeschooling, and the tax dollars follow the children. That is so important, education within the community. Talk to us about the Hispanic community and why that resonates so well with Hispanic families.
I think it's something that really touches me in general. Again, I was blessed to be in a household where my parents both went to university. So for me, it was not an option. For me, it was a must. You're going to go from your hometown into a different country to come back to go to a different country. It was already planned out like that. It's not that I choose to do it. They just told me what I was going to do. And then boom, you're going to get it done. And it was an option. I'm literally doing the same thing to my kids. I have two teenagers and they have no option. They're going to high school right now. And as they're doing high school, they're doing college. It's a prep high school. So they're doing both. When they finish high school, they'll have an associate's. It's not an option. It's a must, right? It's a mindset. But when you don't have that, sometimes we are built with strongholds, is how I will describe it. If my parents didn't made it, maybe I can't. And you know why? It's not because I don't believe I can do it. It's because I was put that chip in myself that it's impossible for me to do it. Because in general, parents become the fountain in their household. You as a parent got to be very careful what you say, how you do it, because your children are looking at you. If you show them lack, if you teach them you can't get it done, they're going to learn that from you. Just think about a children. A children is built and born, and they can achieve anything they want when they're little. They can believe anything. You tell them you're a butterfly, they think they're a butterfly. You can tell them you're the superhero, and they believe it. So it all depends on how you present yourself to your children, because when you show your children, this is who I am, this is how I do it, and you're going to do the same thing, it's a normal. It becomes their normal. Mm-hmm. So parents in the Hispanic communities that came without the ability or the ways of doing it, and they just came here working, laboring so hard so they can provide for their families, burning, were able to buy the first time buyers. They bought a house, they got a loan, they probably started a local business, whatever they did, right? Now the children are looking into that and they're following the steps. If you don't educate them, there's more. You can do better, you can do greater. They're not going to do it. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to go get a loan. They're going to buy a house. They're going to stay in that small house. They're going to do a little business, a business from home. They're going to follow exactly the same steps as their parents. But now think about a family that gets educated on the way. Okay, maybe I'm from an immigrant family, didn't have the opportunity to go to university. Well, that's great. But then somebody on the media or at school or advocates or community leaders like me, for say, will stand out there and speak it and say, no. Bless your parents' heart for bringing you into this country and doing whatever they did to get you here. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you achieving something. Let's talk about you going to university. Let's talk about you getting a degree. Let's talk about you becoming an engineer. But my parent, it's electrician. He works for a company. That's great. But think about you being an engineer, and then you open up an electrician company, and then you become doing this and doing that, and then you bring your dad and you help them, bring your family, do it, and then they get presented the opportunity, and they're like, I can do that 100% because this is the country of opportunities. You can do anything in this country. You have all the means, all the ways. You just have to educate yourself so you can understand where you can go get those opportunities. And then it's like a mindset change. You change your mindset, you change your life.
And understanding that it's what's so great, I think, about this country, and I've never lived anywhere else, so of course I'm biased. But what I think is so great about this country, just having read about other countries and talked to other people, is that we do have equal opportunity. That's what we strive for, is equal opportunity here, not equal results. Because equal results is not going to end up in the prosperity that we have experienced as a country. But when you have equal opportunity, it's about your know-how. It's about your motivation, your, as my dad always would say, your gumption, to get something done and to work hard, and those results, it will come back to you. So I think you've got a lot of good advice, but I like how we reached out in our Hispanic Vote Coalition, bringing in Hispanic pastors and, talking to Hispanic community on the issues that matter most. And what I hear from you and what I heard throughout the election was it's faith, family, education, safe communities, which means a safe border, that the Hispanic community believes in immigration, but legal immigration, because crime was ending up in your communities. And it was affecting your own communities, your own homes, clearly your own job, with the homes being vandalized that you were working in. I mean, that's a hit to your business. So thank you so much for offering all of this, sort of perspective, because I think the Conservative Party needs to understand that they have to work for these votes, and they have to do that through education and through coming out and speaking to those communities. So, Jeannette, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
And thank you all for taking the time to tune in to Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. Main Street Matters is part of the Salem Podcast Network. New episodes debut every Wednesday and Friday. Check out the show wherever you get your audio podcasts. You can watch the show on Job Creators Network YouTube and Rumble accounts. Just search for Job Creators Network. Bye for now.